Have you ever thought that you saw something in the corner of your eye, or if you might have heard something or saw shadows? Well, you're not the only one that can see those things. I was 6 years old when this happened, and it was based on a true story. I was nothing but a small little child of 6, and I used to love going down the stairs a lot. And one night, I woke up and I went to the bathroom. And I always do that. I always wake up, go to the bathroom, maybe get a drink of water or something like that. And one day, I saw something by the stairs. So I walked over and I said hello. And I didn't hear nothing or see anything. So I just minded my own business and walked off. And by the time I came back with a glass of water, I saw a man standing by the steps. And I said hello. And he didn't respond, but he looked at me and I couldn't see his face. I was like, hello? Starting to get nervous. And when he turned around and looked at me, he was nothing but a black shadow. There was no face, no figure, just a black mass, only with a man's body. And he looked at me for a little while, and he started to walk up the steps. And I got scared, and I ran. And I ran into my mom's room and told her. I was like, Mom, there's a man over on the stairs. She was like, honey, go back to sleep. You're probably just sleeping or dreaming. I was like, no, there's a man on the steps. So she gets up and she goes to go look on the steps, and there's nobody there. She's like, honey, please go back to sleep. You're waking me up, and I gotta go to work tomorrow. So I said, okay, Mom, I'm sorry. And I walked to my room. And the next day, the same thing happened again. I was walking over to the bathroom, getting the same drink of water as usual around 3 a.m. And I saw the man again. This time, he had color to him. And when I went and I walked on one of the steps, I said hello, and he turned around. And this time, he was wearing a black coat. He kind of looked like the Grim Reaper, kind of. And he looked at me with the most stone cold face. His eyes were pure black, and his face was in a smirk. And he just looked at me. And as I ran over to my mother again and told her that there was a man in a black hoodie downstairs, she said, there's nobody there, honey. Go to sleep. I said, okay, Mom. I'll go back to sleep. I'm sorry for awaking you. She said, it's okay, honey. Just go to sleep. It'll all be okay in the morning. So I went to sleep, and the next day I woke up, and Mom was like, hey, did you hear anything downstairs? Swore I heard somebody messing with the dishes downstairs. I was like, no, Mom, but I think I know who it was. She said, who? I said, it was probably the man on the steps. She was like, honey, you must be dreaming or having a nightmare because there's nobody on the steps. I was like, Mom, but there is somebody on the steps. He's always there at around 3 o'clock at night. And he's always there when I go to get a drink of water or to go to the bathroom. And he changes into different things. She was like, okay, honey, this is what I want you to do. If you're not lying, take a picture of the man tomorrow. I said, okay, Mom, I'll do that. So the next night, I woke up and I went to the bathroom and got water and stuff. This time the man was not at the foot of the steps, but halfway up the steps. And he was staring at me. This time he changed. He had a pure pale white face with black eyes, and half his cheek was slit open, and he was wearing a black coat, and he had something in his hand that looked like a knife or a razor blade. And he looked at me and he said, "Come here, little girl." And before he could even walk up the steps, I took my camera out and I took a picture, and he disappeared. I said, "Mommy, Mommy, I got it, I got it." And as I went to go to Mom, she looked at me in the most horrifying face ever. She said, "Honey, get your coat and your shoes. We're leaving now." I said, "Okay, Mommy." So I got my coat and I got everything, and we walked out the house. She said, "Who is this man?" I was like, "I don't know, Mommy. He's been there for 3 days. He keeps getting closer and closer on the steps. First he was at the foot of the steps, then he went up one step, then he was closer than ever. He was on the middle step, and he walked up one more, and he told me to come here." She said, "Don't ever listen to that man. He is a very bad man." I was like, "Mommy, who is it?" She was like, "He was the guy that used to live in this house. He was a murderer. And one day, one of his victims that he captured got away. And before they got away, they slit the side of his cheek from his mouth to his ear. And they left him there to bleed to death. And as he was bleeding there, he cursed the house, that always he will be there to haunt it. And he is still here. Now what I want you to do is take this picture and keep it with you at all times, because he doesn't like the light." So the next night I went over to my room and I took the picture with me, and I walked over to the steps and I saw the man. This time he was sitting on the second to last step, and he was crying, and I was like, "Sir, are you okay?" And I heard him speak, and he said, "I'm sorry for scaring you, little girl. I never meant to scare you or hurt you. I just wanted a friend." I was like, "I heard some bad things about you, and I don't know if I want to be a friend." He was like, "I'm not a bad guy. I'm seriously not. The people that were here first had killed me a long time ago. I was one of their victims. And the actual murderer of this house still lives here to this day, only hiding in the basement." He was like, "But then why is your cheek cut?" He said, "Because the man here that was on the foot of the steps the first day that you saw, he sliced my cheek to make me look like him. That way you wouldn't be my friend and help me get out of here." So then I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And as I went on the steps to go and touch him on his shoulder, he grabbed my hand and he pulled me in close and he said, "I've got you now, little girl. Now you're mine." I said, "No, Mommy, no! Mommy, Mommy!" And as I started to scream for my mommy, she wasn't awake. And I heard screaming in the room, and he let me go. And I was like, "Mommy, Mommy!" As I walked into the room, I saw my mom. And there was a guy on top of her, and he had a razor blade in his hand. And he slit her throat open. And he took the knife, and he slit from her mouth to her ear. And he left that marking on her as she bled to death on the bed, and she died. And as he looked at me and the other man looked at me, they both said, "Now it's your turn, little girl." I said, "No, please, please, no." And I ran to what Mom told me to do, to grab the picture and turn on the light. And as I did this, both of the men disappeared, and I escaped the house with my life. The next day I told the police The police never believed me. Nobody believed me. They thought I killed my mother because I had blood on me. I said, no, I didn't kill my mother. The people did. The man in the house did. They said, there is no man in the house, young lady. I was like, but I have a picture of them. And as I showed them the picture, they said, little girl, this isn't a picture of the man. This is a picture of you. I was like, what? And as I looked at the picture, it showed me in there with a razor blade in my hand. And my cheek cut from my mouth to my ear. And I had blood all over me. And in the background, you can see two men standing there, laughing. And I was like, no, no, I didn't do it. I promise you, I didn't do it. The cops were like, come on, young lady. Time to take you away. I was like, no, no, please, please, no. And as I screamed and cried and pleaded for them not to take me away, they told me that I was a murderer and I would spend the rest of my life in jail. And the last thing they heard from that house was the still cries of that little girl's mother, crying in agony and pain of her mouth and throat being slit open. And the picture of the man with the hood and the shadow by the steps.